Hi, this is Jeff Schmidt with Hub International, and we're going to be talking today a little bit about placement agent risk mitigation and how you can proactively reduce your incident of claims as well as reduce the severity of claims when they do happen. A little bit of background information before we start. So most placement agents, when they're first starting out in the business, would assume that all 50 states require insurance for assisted living facilities as part of the licensing process. The reality is only 4 states in the entire country require it. Those 4 states would be California, Washington, Colorado, and Florida. Now, out of those 4 states, typically they aren't enforcing the insurance requirements, and so they may check the facility insurance at the time that they get licensed, but they're not going to be checking it annually or updating it as they need to be. So although there are 4 states of the 50 that do require it, they're not doing a great job in enforcing it. Now, how does this impact claims and placement agents? So obviously, if you were to go to the doctor, you would never go to an uninsured doctor, and you would never hire an uninsured contractor to work on your house. However, there's a lot of people that are using uninsured facilities. And when you use an uninsured facility or you recommend one to a family, what ends up happening is you become the first in line when there is a claim. So kind of thinking of how this would play out in real life, let's assume a facility has no coverage at all. They injure somebody and there's a wrongful death lawsuit. The facility is going to get named in the lawsuit first, but then anybody who has interaction with that resident is also going to get named in that lawsuit. And typically, you're going to be the second in line in that lawsuit as the placement agent since you recommended the facility to the family. So if the facility has no coverage and you also get sued, now you become first chair in that lawsuit instead of second chair, which is not what we want. We want to avoid that at all costs. So the way that we mitigate risk in this situation is we verify that the facilities have insurance before we recommend them. Now that sounds like it's a complicated process. It's actually very simple, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So kind of running through the key details before we get started on how you verify the insurance. Once again, states do not require facilities to carry insurance as part of the licensing process. Most people don't anticipate that, but it is a fact, and so something that you want to have on your radar for sure. The other key detail is that assisted living facility insurance rates have kind of skyrocketed over the last 3 to 4 years. COVID threw gasoline on an already burning fire because rates were going up already. And then as COVID hit and a lot of wrongful death claims started happening at the facilities due to COVID infections and things of that nature, the rates went even higher for assisted living facilities. So why does that matter? Well, what we found in our experience, because we write about 650 group homes and assisted living facilities throughout the country, is that we get calls on a weekly basis from facilities that have no coverage at all. And so our estimate is about 50% of the facilities, typically the smaller group homes, have no insurance at all. What we've seen over the last 11 years of working with placement agents and over the last 17 years working with assisted living facilities is that the absolute worst lawsuits come from facilities that have no insurance at all. And the reason why we see that happen is typically those are the facilities that are cutting corners in other areas, because if they're kind of penny wise, pound foolish and not carrying insurance, which is relatively inexpensive, they're probably cutting corners elsewhere and not taking the best care of their residents. So again, verifying the insurance, it sounds scary. It's actually a very simple process, and that's something that we'll talk about in the next slide here. And the key takeaway on all of this is that you can proactively reduce your risks. There's no need to kind of roll the dice working with an uninsured facility. Just know that you can take the proper steps to make sure that you don't get involved in a lawsuit in the first place. So kind of getting into the details of how we verify insurance. So what you'll see on the screen here is a sample certificate of insurance. This certificate of insurance is very similar to what you're going to see when you sign up for coverage from our office. So what you'll do is you go to the facility and you ask them, hey, before we can finalize your contract and start recommending you, we need to see that you have active insurance. And say, can you provide me a copy of your certificate? Now, this certificate is going to have a lot of insurance jargon on it, but the good news is you're already going to have your certificate of insurance that we provide you once you sign up for coverage with us. So you just take your insurance certificate and you put it next to their insurance certificate, and you're going to be lining up a couple of key coverage points here. So at the top, you're going to see this section called General Liability. General Liability, you're going to want to verify that they have a $1 million per incident and $3 million aggregate limits. That's going to be kind of the standard coverage in this industry for assisted living facilities as well as placement agents. So number one point that you're looking for is general liability up here at the top. They should have that. The next key coverage is going to be down at the bottom here, where it's going to typically have like an open box where they can type in an additional line of coverage. And this is going to be professional liability or errors and omissions insurance is what you're looking for there. They should have the same limits that they have for the general liability, which is going to be $1 million per incident and $3 million aggregate limits. Typically, your certificate of insurance will have something in the middle here called automobile liability. You're going to have hired and non-owned auto when you sign up for coverage with us, typically. You're not overly concerned with that. It's a nice to have for the facilities, but not a necessity. The key coverage is, again, professional liability and general liability. And that's it. That's how simple it is to verify coverage for a facility. They should not give you any pushback when you ask for a certificate of insurance. This is a very common practice. This is something that happens on a daily basis, and they should have it readily available for you as you're working with either the director or their operations person. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to Hub International. Otherwise, this is a very brief training on how you can proactively mitigate your risks and ensure that you don't get sued in the first place. Thanks and have a great day.